those posters that are lining the driveway to the White House right now for the media to see, of all of the, it's 100 of them, mug shots and showcasing. These are people, Will, that were convicted. These are people that aren't just being thrown out of the country. A lot of them have done egregious and horrible acts. All of them, I'd say, that they've been convicted of.
The people on the signs are people that are here illegally and have been convicted of a crime.
So I want to make sure that was clear. This isn't just people who are accused of a crime, or are just here illegally.
So this was 100 yard signs that had the mugshots of individuals that were taken off the streets and what they were described as the worst of the worst by the administration. And not only did they put up this theatrical show for everyone where it shows what the criminal offense was and that they were arrested, but there was a surprise early morning press briefing from Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary at the White House. This is very unusual to have an early morning press briefing.
Before most of you probably were awake or at work, this was happening.
And this was with Tom Homan, and it was to highlight the success of the actions taken by the Trump administration on the border. And we'll play a clip here. Yeah. This is her opening line from this press briefing.
And again, this was just this morning.
Today, we kick off 100-day week with a focus on the president's historic effort to secure our southern border. Later this afternoon, President Trump will sign an executive order on law and order and another executive order on sanctuary cities. The first EO will strengthen and unleash America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. The second EO is centered around protecting American communities from criminal aliens, and it will direct the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security to publish a list of state and local jurisdictions that obstruct the enforcement of federal immigration laws. After these are signed, the president will have signed more than 140 executive orders already, rapidly approaching the total number signed by the Biden administration over the course of 4 years in office.
Even Bernie Sanders a few weeks ago said, hey, I don't agree with President Trump on many things, but I do on the border.
Is there anything that you think Trump has done right?
Yeah, I think cracking down on fentanyl, making sure our borders are stronger. Look, nobody thinks that illegal immigration is appropriate.
I think this is more interesting, that should be highlighted, because really, yes, there is a problem with a large amount. Tom Homan said probably about 20 million illegal immigrants in the country. And the deportation is something that people voted for, but also just the stopping the flow of it. And this is Bite 11 from Tom Homan that really highlights how well they shut down the border. And I think that's really what people want to hear.
On the first 100 days, what was actually January 20th to April 1st, last year, 184,000 illegal aliens were released into the United States. Under this administration, 9. 4 of them were material witnesses in a criminal investigation. We need them here to testify in a serious criminal trial. 4 was extreme medical condition. We couldn't return them because they were in such bad shape. And 1 was a humanitarian issue. This is unprecedented success. The border secure. President Trump saving lives.
I love that.
Right, and I think that should be the focus.
There was heart in it, there was feeling, there was emotion, and it also proved the point of what they're doing.
Another point that he brought up, too, was how many women and children are victims of assault and other things and trafficking, and that when you shut down 184,000 that are being let go once they get to the border, when you stop that, you're also protecting them. Yeah, you're also stopping crimes against women and children.
Former law enforcement, every department has a UCR report. They report the status. For the regards to what's lining the driveway, we want to see the progress of what we voted for. I do wish they had put what state these people were taken into, because various states are blue.
On the White House website, under their articles section, they have the entire list of who those mugshots are. In the first 100 days, Trump administration has taken killers off our streets. And it goes through and it says ICE Baltimore arrested this individual, ICE Buffalo, ICE El Paso, ICE Houston. So if you go through, you do see where they were, which team of ICE. It doesn't necessarily give the exact state if ICE Chicago was in one of the suburbs or something like that. But it's giving at least the region and most likely the state that they were taken into custody in, and many of them are in blue states. You see Buffalo, you see San Francisco, Chicago. Here's what's interesting, and also what plays into this as well, Logan, is that multiple polls came out about approval rating for the president, and these happen periodically where they're doing the overall approval rating, then they get into kind of the details. And so what we've got here is kind of a conflicting view of approval rating polls. Now, we may not care too much about polls in the American public, but the administration actually does pay attention to them, and politicians pay attention to them to know what they should go after, what they should talk about more, how they should frame things. And we have conflicting polling data about the immigration issue right now. A CBS poll that was conducted April 23rd through 25th, so this is just being released because it was just completed, has the Trump administration's program to deport immigrants illegally in the United States, 56% approval rating. Now, that's great. That sounds like, okay, his overall approval rating is lower. It's in the 40s. But on that issue, it seems like the American public generally, there's a majority of Americans that approve of this. But then you have a Washington Post poll in ABC News that came out Friday that has Trump with 53% disapproval. So the opposite, and 46% approving of how he's handling immigration. So there's a split there, almost identical mirror images of how these polls are conducted. And these aren't by one's a conservative organization that's getting, a different data set. These are both CBS and Washington Post, mainstream media, conducting these polls with their polling partners. And it shows a majority of Americans are definitely liking what the policies are. And the other shows that a majority of Americans definitely disapprove of it. So conflicting. That's why I think it's also interesting to take it to the audience here of our listeners and what do they think about this? Do they think that it is getting too theatrical and we need to see more work and proof of that work instead of just tweets that saying we did all this?
And look, we've been calling for some form of real immigration reform for pretty much the existence of our broadcast here because we believe that it is a messed up system. Now, thankfully, you are seeing the border get more secure. But even when the border was secure, I'd say, at this point, a decade ago, or during the pre-Trump, when it was better, we still have a kind of messed up immigration policy and system. The timeline it takes, that's why you see President Trump putting in things like the gold card and those kind of options. Why? Because it's fundamentally broken to begin with. So we got to address that too. First, we got to close the border, get that all fixed, handle that crisis that's happening. And then once the crisis hopefully is handled, you can actually address the real problem, which is that the immigration process to get into this country is really not set up to benefit anyone.